full name is Harold Monroe Jameson. And my birthday's September 1st, 1925. Well, I grew up in Habersham County till left up there when I was 14 years old and come to Franklin County.
Okay.
So anyway, I moved it down. We moved down there at Conklin Bridge over close to Tom's Creek.
Okay.
And that's where my dad, he had a place rented over there to farm. And that's where he put me to work. Well, my main thing is I just wanted to go.
Look this way.
And
there you go.
Some of my friends, they was drafted, and I had to volunteer to go because I wasn't quite old enough to be drafted. So anyway, that's why I went on when I did, went early, to stay close with them as long as I could. And we all went to the Navy, but they got different ships from what I got. They got a big old...
Did your parents have to sign for you to go in early?
No, the day I was 18 is when I volunteered to go. And that was, I could have stayed out a good while and then got some time off because I helped my dad on the farm and they could get off longer. And that's where it all got started. Well, I just really liked water, just, you know. The only one I served on was the USS Saratoga, big old aircraft carrier.
Okay.
And I was on it all the time that I was in service. Grand old lady, and it was old and it was grand. Everybody that got on that ship was really liked it. Powder man on the 5-inch gun. He just reach down, knock a cap off of a powder keg and pull it out and throw it put it in the gun right behind the fella that unloaded the bullet or whatever you want to call it, and put it in after he put the powder can in. Well, not when we was in battle, but during the day I worked with just rounding the ship there at different. They give you different areas to keep clean and do things to keep the ship going, you know. Oh boy, when they decided to paint that thing, you had to go and they have it in dry dock, and you have to go down in a hole where you could get to the bottom and scrape everything on it off. And then they turned around and painted it. And it seemed like they painted that thing different colors too many times to suit the people that had to do all that work. Well, they just done it every 3 or 4 years, or 2 or 3 years, something I don't really remember. But it changed colors about 3 times when I was on it, I believe. I was just on there about a little under 3 years. Oh, I didn't serve. When they said that the Japanese, when they dropped that atomic bomb on them, and they throwed their hands up. I come home, and so anyway, I got hurt, and I stayed in the hospital 3 months. But I wasn't at the amount of time wasn't all that much, 'cause a lot of them fellers had lifetime. That was their lifetime job, and they usually stay 20 years at the most. Yeah.
How were you injured?
God, I don't really hardly remember. Oh yeah, the gun blew up. Gun blew up. When they said fire, we fired, and it just busted right in the face. And it was 5-inch guns, and they was big around 5-inch, and then they was made out of 1-inch metal, steel metal. And that thing just ripped wide open right over top of our head. That the gun did. It ripped, the barrel ripped, and even the top of the turret was ripped over. And how we got to live through it, I don't ever know. Mostly both fragments, and got burnt pretty bad. Or I had my head wrapped up 7 days. And it got burnt my arms real bad in my head, and my hair was just curled up plumb down to my skull where it was burnt. And anyway, my face and neck and arms where I didn't have clothes on was just a solid scab. Well, all I remember is getting tangled up with them, and went through what we was. Iwo Jima was had a big mountain there, and it had holes in it, and they lived back in under that mountain. Them people did, and they finally had to burn them out with flamethrowers. And bombing didn't get to them in under that mountain, you know. So they finally had to get them out with flamethrowers. No, we'd stay out there. Well, we'd come back to, and let us rest up a few days sometimes. It did its speech. So many times get to leave the ship, go to Ninet's speech, and they had it fixed up to where people could spend the night, had a place for them to eat, and I went to it one or two times. But one time we went out there and we had this Indian with us, and his army guard out there, and he had a gun, shore guard, you know. It was right on, pretty close to the ocean, and that Indian got out there and got toting that there guy. They had trough made out of wood, and it had the beer, full of beer. And a lot of people drank that. And that there Indian, he drank a good bit and went out there and got that old soldier drunk and talked to him, let him shoot the gun. And I was out there swimming around, me and 4 or 5 more. And first thing we know, that gun was shooting and the water splashing up all around us. So he lasted on the ship about 3 more days, that Indian did. and they put him on one of these here little ship boats that went into, carried the soldiers into when they raided the place, and he was on a little ship like that. Oh, I come home when I got wounded and stayed in the hospital 3 months. And then I went over to Charleston and stayed over there 6 months, right about 6 months, before the war ended. No, I could have got one, but I didn't tell them nothing. I know one old boy got his big toe mashing, and he turned that in and got But I didn't ever ask for one. They would give me one in half a second. And I didn't even take a disability. I had a pretty good disability. I wanted to come home. It was Christmas time. And this old boy that was mustering me out, he said, if you'll wait till tomorrow, you can get a disability. I said, I want to go home, it's Christmas. And I just left that disability with them. Didn't stay to get it. And I could have drawn that money all them years.
Do you regret not staying one more day?
No, I made it good without it. One time I got dropped a powder can on my foot, mashed it, crippled it up some. I had a hop a few days. Oh, I was just seaman first. I could have went on up, but I didn't. And I was satisfied. I was just waiting for a day to come to go home. But I was lucky to get one of the best ships I had. Okay. Well, we had airplanes I had a 6, I believe it was, up above us. It was protected, you know. They kept planes out all the time when you was in dangerous ground like that, dangerous area. And we had 6 up there, and we went under a big cloud. And them kamikazes, I called them suicide planes, they was in that cloud too. And all at once, them things coming down at us, and our gunnery officer, he seen them, and he was just standing there looking with his mouth open. He said he couldn't say a word. And after they started dropping on us, we had to start firing at them on our own. And we shot down 9 of them things. And so anyway, we got hit 7 times. But that old ship was a tough one, I tell you it was. And they had it marked off on top. The dangerous areas, they marked it for a bomb to hit. They marked it off somewhere else on the ship, where them suicide planes pilots, and that's where they dropped, hit the ship with their suicide planes, and which was a good idea, you know. So anyway, even after all that beating, the Saratoga, it would do 33 knots. Fast, it was old ship, but it was fast as the new one, same thing. And it would, so we could to Guam, come back to Guam, had to patch it up, the sides of it a good bit. The repairman did, where them suicide planes hit the side of it. And had to patch that up, keep water from coming through it. And then we come back to get repaired. They patched us up enough to get to Birmingham in the United States. And they told us that was the worst tore up ship they ever worked on there. But it did, it really took a beating. Every time or two we had 2 or 3 tried to get in on us. We had destroyers out there, and them destroyers shot them down before they got to us. They used destroyers to protect the aircraft carriers. No, I never did. Never did. And we had some, it just went during, when we hit that battle where we got hit, got some that lost it. I mean, they just went crazy. And I was just a little old runt, hard-working gunner, and I screamed at them to get back to their safe. The man that was supposed to, he was scared to death too. So I took it on my own. I said, get your butt back over where you need to be. We had different lineage, really. Top men, minutes. And you know, before I went on it, I don't know what it was, that he done something to that ship. The skipper didn't like. And so when Annetts come to visit, that old skipper met him at the top of the, when he stepped over on the top of the ship, said, "You're not welcome to this ship." Told him the way he had done them, you know. And I just don't know, as before I went on it. And I don't know where he turned around and left or what. But that old guy, he was just, he was man enough to stand up for his crew, you know. No, not on the ship. It wasn't run as it read. Old Jumping Joe, he was a famous pilot. And that was his nickname, Jumping Joe. Old Jumping Joe, he'd be out and go out and drop his bombs and come back in. Before he'd get to the ship, he'd turn his plane over bottoms side up and go by the ship, showing off, flying bottom side up. I told some of them, I said, he lied, make a mistake, hit the water. It was a dangerous thing to do, I thought. I tell you what I done. We always have tickets to give. Everybody could buy one for $1. The very second we anchored, and I won a camera. And it's dumb as I was, this old guy from California wanted to borrow it, so I want to make a few pictures. And then when I went to get it, he said, somebody stole your camera. Just beat out of it with that nut. And then when we had an Indian that went crazy on it, just about wanting to fight all the time, he accused him of getting it. But I knowed better. Or never let him have it. I did for a long time. It was one of my favorite buddies was on the gun with me, and one night we was on guard. Our gun was, and we sat there, and he went to sleep, and had his foot went out over, and when you turned the gun up like that, went down in a pit. The end of it did. And he had his foot stuck over that pit that was made for the gun to go down. He's sitting there asleep. And when they said give orders to change the situation, his foot was there and it cut about 3 toes off inside of his foot. And so I went on vacation one time, and so anyway, we come back pretty close to where he lived. We stopped at a place. I had his telephone number and called him, and then he come out there and got us and went to show us, took us to his house, stayed a little while. And we seen that he was happy that I come, but his wife wasn't. She thought maybe we was going to spend the night or stay a while, you know. And so we just left after a couple hour or two. But anyway, he had her picture made, and he always, every time we'd have her picture made, he'd lay his arm up on my shoulder. Well, I tell you, I did, and I carried my wife down there, and she said, "Now, I'm not going. If all them people starts drinking," she said, "I'm leaving." So sure enough, when we sat down to eat, everybody had to have beer, but me and her. And when she got through eating, she said, "Let's get out of here." And I never did go back. But I'm still a member. I was a lifetime member.
Of which group?
That and up at Kadir.
The BFW.
Yeah, VFW. No, I put it off. We did. Till after I told my wife, I said, you know, there's a lot of people get killed in service, and I might make it bad. You'll probably be better off. Just wait till. Well, my dad lived about 3/4 of a mile right straight over the seal. And one of my sisters they used to give Saturday evening nap to invite all the young people over. And we invited her. And I was sitting out there on the porch in her swing, and somebody come walking out of the woods out across the field on the little old trail. I was sitting in the swing, and I turned my head around, and I said, "Boy, that's the prettiest little girl I ever seen in my life." So that's the first time I'd ever seen her. So anyway, when she was going to school, they run her to be the prettiest girl in school. So anyway, she got runner-up. The prettiest girl in school turned out to be one of the officials' daughter. We got married 40, I was 21, and she was 20. No, she was 19. She was 2 years older than her. But anyway, I can see I don't know if anybody else could have put up with me. For a few years there, I think the way I had to go through different things, you know. She just fit right in, had enough to. Yeah. So, like I say, when I was 7 years old, my dad pulled me out of school. And when I got back out of service, I was signed up. I went to night school and went to trade school during the day.
What school?
Up at Clarksville. That trade school up there.
Okay.
Yeah, I went up there 2 different times. One for a machinist and another for small engine. And anyway, we lived up there in town for 4 years after we got married. And she finally told me, said, I'm going to get crazy laying around here not doing that. I said, I'm going to have to get me something to do. So she went and got her a job too. But anyway, the first thing I done was started tonight to get my GED. And that's what I done, got it. And then, you know, I've known of fellers that got the GED. They said None was my teacher. And she said, anybody that gets a GED and really has to study to get it. And said all them boys in high school said all they do the last year is just want to have fun. And said I'd take anybody that got their GED before I would one of them high school boys. So that made me feel pretty good. And but anyway, when I left doing that, when I went to work, I still went to night school, I went to day school all the time because I worked at night. But anyway, I made it pretty good. 54 years. Well, I was born in Habersham County, and it was, you ever know where Saratoga community?
I do know where it is.
My grandpa had a farm close to Saratoga, and that's where I was born. And I grew up there, stayed on his place. My dad had, he had a renting house. And my dad, we stayed there till I was 11 years old. And then we moved on up towards Clarksville. And up there near, it was close to what they called a Jordan farm. And lived there 3 years. And then we decided to come south and Tom Keaton and lived pretty close at Tom's Creek, about a mile or two on further to the river. And lived on the side of the river there one or 2 years. And then we moved on over here to the Ruhamer area. And he lived over there about 32 years. But when I got out of the Navy, he says, I'm going to buy another mule for you. And I said, you ain't buying nothing for me. I'm leaving this place. And So anyway, I got married and we moved up to Habersham. But I had lived up there 11 years. I went to Hill Crossing School 7 years and finished that. And I didn't get to go to school till I got in the Navy and started doing some schooling in the Navy. And then when I got out of that, I went to the night school to this. And I had that nun for my teacher, and she was really good. And ones that wanted to help themselves, she would really help them. And then after that, I took my GED and passed it. And so I made it pretty good.